Hello dear students, today I will discuss part 6 of unit 5 surface chemistry. This is the second last part of this chapter. So dear students, after studying the part 6, we will be able to know the remaining properties of colloidal solution, that is colligative properties. About colligative properties, I told you in unit 2 solution that those properties which depend upon number of particles but not the nature of particles is known as colligative properties, and basically these properties are relative lowering of vapor pressure, depression in freezing points and elevation in boiling points, and one more property, that is osmotic pressure of solution. So these four properties are basically belong to the colligative properties. Then 6 properties, charge and colloidal particles, that means how the colloidal particles develop the charge on its surface. This also you have to know in this lecture. And formation of electrical double layer. Then coagulation or precipitation, its various method, and Hardy-Sulzey rule, that is very important in relation to coagulation. And then some more topic which are related to the chapter, that is the coagulation value or fluctuating value or fluctuation value or and coagulation power and fluctuating power, that is fluctuation power. So now dear students, let us focus the fifth properties of colloidal solution, that is colligative properties. So colligative solution, that is colloidal solution, also exhibit colligative properties, but the effect of colloidal particles on the colligative properties except osmotic pressure is very small. This is basically due to the large size of colloidal particles. Here one more thing you have to know, that the number of colloidal particles produced by a given mass of colloid is much less than the number of produced in a molecular solution containing the same mass of solute. So as I told you, the colligative property depend upon the number of particles, so that's why the colloidal particles show minimum colligative property with respect to solution. Now next property, that is the most important property of unit 5, charge on colloidal particles. That means how the colloidal particles develop the charge. There is some method by which you can know that the colloidal particles how develop the charge on its surface, but the most accepted theory is preferential adsorption of ion from the solution. So now focus on the charge on colloidal particles. So the origin of charge on the salt particle in most cases is due to the preferential adsorption of either positive charge or negative charge on their surface from the medium. So now some more property you have to know, that so that is the salt particles acquire electrical charge in any one of the or more of the following ways. So first property, that means the first method by which the charge on colloidal particles are developed, so that is frictional electrification. So just in your childhood you have done so many times that you tear the small particles of, you tear the paper in the small particles and rub a scale by your head, and when these scale are come near to these tear particles of paper, so they stick to the scale. So that is due to the rubbing, here the development of charge take place. So this is also here that due to rubbing of disperse phase and dispersion medium, the charge are developed. So that's why this method is known as frictional electrification. Now then second method by which you can develop the charge on colloidal particles, that the dissociation of surface molecule. So the common example for this type of molecules is soap and detergents. So basically it leads to electrical charge on colloidal particles. For example, an aqueous solution of soap, here the taken example sodium palmitate dissociate into ions given like the reactions as given here. So C15H31 COO gives C15H31 COO minus plus Na plus. Here sodium palmitate break into palmitate ions and Na plus ions. So now the Na plus ion pass into the solution while C15H31 COO minus ion have a tendency to form aggregate due to weak attractive force present in the hydrocarbon chain. So thus the anion which are of colloidal size bear the negative charge. So by this way the colloidal particles also develop the charge on the surface. Now the third method, capture of electron, that is known as Bragg arc method. That is the from air during the preparation of salt. For example, the salt of gold, that is gold salt, platinum salt, etc., which can be prepared by Bragg arc method. So this process involves basically dispersion as well as condensation. So by this way, these salt acquire negative charge. So this method I told you in previous lecture. So that is one more method by which the charge develop on the surface of colloid. One more method, that is most accepted method, preferential adsorption of ion from the solution. So now the charge on colloidal particles is generally acquired by preferentially adsorbing positive or negative ion from the electrolyte from the medium. So now we are taken some examples to explain this. Here AgI particles can absorb I minus ion which are more in the medium, that is the adsorption of common ions take place and form negatively charged colloidal particles as shown here. So that means the charge developed on colloidal particles depend upon the charge present in the medium, that means in excess of the medium, and which are common to the colloidal particles. If the medium contains AgNO3, so now the AgI acquire Ag plus charge and the charge on colloidal particles is positive. So that's why the preferential adsorption of ions develop the charge from the solution like that. Here some examples are given which show the positively charged salt and negatively charged salt. So positively charged salt, look here, the dispersed phase carries the positive charge. The some common examples of the positively charged salt are hydrated metallic oxide, just like Fe2O3 dot X water. This is also known as rust. One more example you can write, or you can learn CrO3 dot X water. One more example, Al2O3 dot X water. So these are some example of hydrated metal oxide which are positively charged. Then basic dye step. These steps may be methylene blue solution, then hemoglobin in the blood. So look at here, the blood as a whole negatively charged, but hemoglobin that is the product of globin proteins, but heme iron is basically positively charged salt. Then oxides are also example of positively charged salt. Their common examples are TiO2 salt, zirconium oxide salt. So these are basically belong to the positively charged salt. Now look in the negatively charged salt. So the dispersed phase carries the negative charge. There some examples are given. The metals, that is gold, platinum salt, copper salt, silver salt, these acquire basically negative charge. Then metallic sulfide, AS2, S3, arsenic sulfide, antimony sulfide, cadmium sulfide, CdS salt, these also acquire negative charge. Acid dye step such as eosin, Congo red salt, these also acquire negative charge. Some more examples are given here. the salt of starch, blood, gum, gelatin, clay, charcoal, egg albumin. These are also example of negatively charged salt. So maybe some question arises on this topic that starch are given to you and the mediums is given here in the form of starch, and say that which electrolyte is basically more appropriate to coagulate the starch salt. So since the starch salt is negatively charged, so that's why the positively charged colloid, that means electrolyte, may be cause coagulation of starch solution. So these some examples are given here which are related to the positively charged salt and negatively charged salt. Learn it for your examination. Now dear students, electrical double layer. Basically this is also known as Helmholtz electrical double layer. So as I told you that the surface of colloidal particles acquire a positive or negative charge by selective adsorption of ions carrying positive or negative charge respectively. So now the charge layer attract counter ions, form the medium which form a second layer. So thus an electrical double layer is formed on the surface of particles. That is, one due to adsorb ion and other due to oppositely charged ion forming a diffuse layer. So this layer consists of ion of both of sign, but its net charge is equal and opposite to those adsorbed by colloidal particles. So therefore, the existence of charged particles of opposite sign on the fixed and diffuse layer develop double layer which create potential difference between these layers. So now the potential difference between the fixed charge layer and diffuse layer of opposite charge is called electrokinetic potential, or also known as zeta potential. So now look the diagram. Here AgI is the colloidal particles. It develop positive charge of Ag plus from the medium which are present in excess. Now these positively charged Ag develop a counter ions from the medium, that is NO3 minus. So look the diagram. Here two layers is formed. One layer which are directly attached to the AgI, that is Ag plus, is a fixed layer, and the second layer, that is the counterbalance the Ag plus charge, is a diffuse layer. So formation of these two layers is known as electrical double layer, or also Helmholtz electrical double layer. So due to development of two type of charges, plus charge, negative charge, it develop a potential. That potentials are known as zeta potential. So only this you have to learn for the board examination. What is the zeta potential or electrokinetic potential? So now dear students, next and seventh property that is also very important for the examination point of view, that is known as coagulation. So basically the process of settling of colloidal particles is called coagulation or precipitation. So now dear students, you know that the colloidal salts are stable due to the presence of electric charge on the colloidal particles because of electrical repulsion. The particles do not come close to one another. That means if AgI contains Ag plus charge, so similar charges present in the other colloidal particles, so that's why they do not come to each other, close to each other, and do not coagulate. But when the removal of charge by any means will lead to the aggregation of particles, and hence precipitation will occurs immediately. So dear students, most of the salt are coagulated by adding electrolyte of opposite sign. Here some examples are taken. The example arsenic sulfide. Just I told you that sulfide is belong to the negatively charged salt, are precipitated by adding barium chloride solution, that is Ba2 plus. So this indicate that the coagulation take place by addition of appropriate electrolytes of opposite sign. Now dear students, apart from the addition of electrolyte, coagulation can also be carried out by following method. The first method is by persistent dialysis. So I told you about the dialysis, but what happens basically here? if the dialysis are continued for more times, so what happens here? The trace of electrolytes which are associated with the solution due to which it is stable is also removed, and hence the coagulation take place. So that's why the persistent dialysis also causes coagulation. Second method, that is mutual coagulation of colloids. Here means when two salts of opposite sign or opposite charges are mixed together in a suitable portion, that is the coagulation take place. The charge of one is neutralized by the other. Here one example you can take, when the negatively charged arsenic sulfide salt is added to positively charged ferric hydroxide salt, so the precipitation of both occur simultaneously. So this method is known as mutual coagulation of colloid. That means one negatively charged salt can collide other opposite charges, that is positively charged colloid. That's why this process is known as mutual coagulation. The third method is by electrical method. What happens basically here? I told you in the fifth part of unit 5 about the electrophorosis. So when we have to find the charge on the colloidal particles, we apply the method electrophoresis. In that condition, what happens basically? If the electrical charge of lyophobic salt is removed by applying an electric field such as an electrophoresis, so they also precipitate out. That means when the negatively charged salt move to the anode, so they lose their charges, that means get precipitated at anode. Similarly, when positively charged salt move to the cathode, so they lose their charges and get precipitated at the cathode. So this is the electrical method by which we can done precipitation. Now the fourth method, by excessive cooling or by excessive heating. So this is also an important method by which you can done precipitation. That means excess of cooling and excess of heating. That means if more boiling take place, so what happens basically here? When a salt is boiled, the adsorbed layer is distributed, that is disturbed due to the increased collision with the molecules of dispersion medium, and this reduces the charge on colloidal particles and ultimately lead to settling down in the form of precipitate. So that's why the excessive heating is also cause precipitation of colloidal solution. Now dear students, the most important rules related to the coagulation is Hardy-Sulje rule. S. Sulje in 1882 and W. B. Hardy in 1900 suggested the following rules to discuss the effect of electrolytes of the coagulation of salt, that is colloidal particles, which is termed as Hardy-Sulje rule and which is stated as follows. Higher the valency of active ions, that is fluctuating ions, greater will be its power to precipitate the salt. Or you can also define this rule that the greater the valency of fluctuating ions, that is coagulating ions, the greater is its power to cause coagulation. Here some examples are taken to explain the rule. So thus coagulating power of cations to coagulate the negatively charged salt is in order Al3 plus, that means more the charges, and the cations more will be the power of coagulation for negatively charged salt. Then similarly to coagulate the positively charged salt, the coagulating power of an ion is in order Fe Cn का whole 6 square bracket, then 4 minus, then PO4 3 minus, SO4 2 minus, Cl minus. That means more the negatively charged, more will be the power of coagulation for positive charged salt. So this is the Hardy-Sulje rule, and this is more important for the examination point of view. One question may be asked in the board examination. Here some questions are given at the end to discuss about the Hardy-Sulje rule. Now some more points you have to know, that coagulating value or fluctuating value. So the minimum amount of electrolytes required to cause precipitation. So now dear students, again the minimum amount of an electrolyte required to catch precipitation of 1 liter of colloidal solution is called coagulation value or flocculation value of electrolyte for the salt. Then coagulating power, the reciprocal of coagulating value is regarded as the coagulative power or fluctuating power. So again, the requirement of minimum to catch precipitation of 1 liter of solution is called coagulation, and the reciprocal of coagulation value is called coagulating power. Here one examples are given to explain this. The coagulating value of NaCl, BaCl2 and AlCl3 for arsenic sulfide, that is negatively charged salt, are 51, 0.69 and 0.093 millimoles per liter. That means this amount needed per liter to catch coagulation respectively. So thus their coagulating power is 1 by 51 or 1 by 0.69 or 1 by 0.093, that is 0.0196, 1.449 and 10.75 respectively. So these are basically about the coagulation value and coagulating power. These examples are given to better understand about the coagulating value and coagulating power. Now dear students, coagulation of lyophilic salt. So how the coagulation of lyophilic salt can take place? So basically there are two factors which are responsible for stability of salt. That factors are charge and solvation of colloidal particles. That means, as I told you that the lyophilic salt means liquid loving salt, so that's why they are more solvated and hence are more stable. When these two factors are removed, a lyophilic salt can be coagulated. So this can be done by either by boiling the solvent or by adding suitable solvent or by adding an electrolyte which can cause coagulation. That means when solvents such as alcohol and acetone are added to the hydrophilic salt, the dehydration of disperse phase occurs. Under this condition, a small quantity of electrolyte can bring about the coagulation. So these are about the coagulation of lyophilic salt. How we can done the coagulation of lyophilic salt, which are more stable due to solvation and charge. Now dear students, protection of colloids. How we protect the lyophobic colloids by lyophilic colloids. So lyophilic colloids are more stable than lyophobic colloids. So this is due to the fact that lyophilic colloids are extensively solvated. When a lyophilic salt is added to the lyophobic salt, the lyophilic particles form a layer around the hydrophobic particles and thus protect the latter from electrolytes. So lyophilic colloids used for this purpose are called protective colloids. So now look the diagram. Here the circle, big circle denote the protecting particles, that is lyophobic colloids, and a small circle around the big circle denote the lyophilic colloids, that is protecting colloids. So by this way the lyophilic salt protect the lyophobic salt. Now dear students, some salt questions based on the above topics are given here, so that you can understand the given topic here very well. Here first question is that discuss the nature of salt obtained by adding FeCl3 to flask A containing excess of hot water and to flask B containing NaOH. So now as I told you that these basically development of charge are depend upon the preferential adsorption. So look the answer. Salt A, that is flask A, contains excess of hot water. So on adding FeCl3, adsorption of Fe3 plus ions, that is common ion to FeOH take place, and thus a positively charged hydrated ferric oxide is formed, that is Fe2O3 dot X water slash, that is hyphen Fe3 plus, that is also known as positively charged salt. In second case, that is flask B, contains since NaOH salt, and when FeCl3 is added, a negatively charged salt is obtained due to the absorption of OH minus ion, that is form Fe2O3 dot X water slash OH minus, that denote the negatively charged salt. So here the common ion is OH minus, which are absorbed from the medium, but in flask A the common ion is Fe3 plus, that's why it acquired the positive charge. So this is the basically based on the preferential absorption of charge from the medium. Now dear students, second question, out of NaCl, K2SO4, CaCO3 and Na3PO4, which one will be more effective for coagulation of CrO3 dot X water and why? As I told you that hydrated oxide is basically belong to the positively charged salt, so that's why here too you have to look after the anions which contains more number of negative ions, that is more the negative ions. So here Na3PO4 will be more effective because CrO3 dot X water is a positively charged salt. Here PO4 contains 3 minus charge, so that's why more the charges on anions, more will be the precipitation of positively charged salt according to Hardy-Sulzer rule. So according to Hardy-Sulzer rule, greater the charge on oppositely charged ions of the electrolyte added, more effective is its coagulation. Now third questions, what do you mean by Helmholtz electrical double layer? So this I have told you that the development of potential difference between the two type of layer, fixed layer and diffuse layer, is known as electrical double layer, and that is also known as Helmholtz electrical double layer. So now the answer may be like this, the combination of the two layers of opposite charges around the colloidal particles is called Helmholtz electrical double layer. Now fourth question, is hemoglobin positively charged or negatively charged salt? This I also told you, in the blood as a whole negatively charged, but hemoglobin is a positively charged. So your answer is hemoglobin is a positively charged salt because it contains iron particles and globule proteins. Now fifth question, why does a colloidal solution get coagulated by addition of an electrolyte? So again here, as colloidal solution get coagulated by adding of an electrolyte because the charge on colloidal particles get neutralized by oppositely charged ion. So that's why the coagulation of colloidal solution take place. Now dear student, question number 6, how do lyophilic colloid protect lyophobic colloids? This I also told you in this lecture. When a lyophilic salt is added to the lyophobic salt, the lyophilic particles form a layer around a lyophobic particles, and thus lyophilic colloids protect lyophobic colloids from electrolyte and so form being the coagulated. Now the students, self-assessment test. This test you have to done by yourself. Here one question is arises, that is what the charge on colloidal particles in A and B, and give reason for the origin of charge. Their diagrams are given here, so look the diagram properly. Here the test tube contains H2O3 and here excess of H2S gas is passed. So what happened basically here, which type of development of charge take place in A and which type of development of charge take place in container B. Here FeOH का whole thrice in B containers and FeCl3 pass to this container. So how they develop the charge in A and B, this you have to done by yourself by understanding the adsorption of charge on colloidal particles. Then question number 2, which of the following is most effective in coagulating negatively charged hydrated ferric oxide. As I told you that for negatively charged ferric oxide solution, more the positive charge on cations, more will be the power of coagulation. The three options is given: NaNO3, MgSO4 and AlCl3. So follow the Hardy-Sulzay rule and write your answer yourself. Question number 3: which of the following is most effective in coagulating positively charged hydrated ferric oxide solution, that is salt? Here also three options are given. Again, learn properly Hardy-Sulzay rule and try to solve the answer from that rule. Nowadays students, stay safe, stay healthy and keep learning. Thank you.